You can go ahead. We have 5 minutes left. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. We'll begin in a few minutes as we let others join. While we wait, I would love to know where you are joining us from. So please use the chat box to introduce yourself, your name, and the country where you are joining us from. Thank you. Thank you for joining us, Rukudzo. Thank you, Odesanya. Okay, our time is up. Once again, welcome everyone who's joining us from wherever you're joining us. We are happy to have you today. My name is Faith Ngwane. I'm a member of the IFRS Sustainability Alliance, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us. It's encouraging to see participants from different organizations and countries across Africa. So today's webinar is part one of our Sustainability Readiness in Africa series titled Preparing Organizations for IFRS S1. So as you know, sustainability reporting is continuing to gain momentum across Africa, and organizations are continuously asking questions like, what does IFRS S1 mean for them? How do we prepare, and how do we even begin? So today's panel will help us answer those questions. So we have new people joining us in. We have a poll that we are going to pull out. For those who haven't responded, please take a minute to just respond to the poll appearing on your screens right now. Where are you joining us from? If you can just type the country where you're joining us from. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Moving on, a few housekeeping points. Today's webinar will run approximately 90 minutes, and we kindly ask you to keep your microphones muted throughout the presentations. And if you have a question, we simply ask you to type it into the chat box, and we'll collect questions throughout the session and as many as possible during our question and answer session. And we encourage you to participate. This webinar is meant to be to encourage participations. So we encourage you to participate in the chat and in the polls throughout the webinar. So to get us started, I would like to ask everyone a quick question. Please answer it through the poll. How familiar are you with IFRS disclosure standards, IFRS S1? Please respond through the poll. Okay, thank you. Just to give a bit of background about ISSB disclosure standards, I would like to just give a background on how we have come to have these standards around us that we need to comply with. So traditionally, organizations are focused primarily on reporting on their financial performance. But however, in today's environment, stakeholders like investors and lenders are increasingly asking broader questions around the sustainability issues affecting or that the organization affect. So they want to understand not only how organizations performing financially, but they also want to know how the sustainability related risks and opportunities could affect future performance. That's the background of how ISSB then came into place to respond to this growing need for consistent and reliable and comparable sustainability information. So to start, I would like to introduce our speakers. We have Grace Fatobi from Nigeria and Chris Monodawafa from Zimbabwe, Tinoa Awe from Nigeria, and Chennai Banda from Zimbabwe. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our first speaker, Grace Fatobi. She is going to present on implementing IFRS S1 from requirements to organization action. Mrs. Grace Fetobi is the FSA credential holder, and she's the founder and managing director of Union Crest Capital Limited. And she's also an IFRS Foundation Regulatory Implementation Advisor. She's also a member of the IFRS Taxonomy Consultative Group. And in this session, she's going to unravel practical walkthrough of IFRS S1. Grace, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Faith, for that warm introduction. I just want to share my presentation. Please confirm you can see my presentation slides with a thumbs up, and confirm I'm audible. Okay, I can't see any thumbs up. Faith, can you confirm that my presentation slides are being viewed and I'm audible?
Yes, Grace, you can go ahead.
All right, thank you so much. So today I would be looking at the IFRS S1, and the IFRS S1 is the general requirements for disclosure of sustainability related financial information, which simply means that the IFRS S1 provides the foundation for reporting if you're using the IFRS sustainability standards. And my goal today is essentially to show that implementation is less about creating new sustainability data and more about identifying the sustainability data that already exists within your organization and developing the processes to report it in accordance with the IFRS S1. So the IFRS S1 actually expects organizations to ask themselves one question. And what exactly is that question? It's for organizations to identify the sustainability related risk and opportunities that could reasonably affect their cash flows, access to finance, and cost of capital. So when you think of the IFRS sustainability standards, it's asking you as an organization to identify the sustainability related risk and opportunities that could influence the decisions that primary users will take in the short, medium, and long term. That takes us to the question, where can you find this sustainability related risk and opportunities that could influence an entity's cash flow, access to finance, and cost of capital? Have anyone here heard of the term ESG? Please indicate with a thumbs up or in the chat if you've heard the term ESG. Now, I would pivot from the concept of ESG to the 5 dimensions of sustainability, because the IFRS S1 is built upon this 5 dimension of sustainability. The IFRS S1 realizes that there are 5 dimensions of issues that could be sustainability related risk or opportunity. So we have the environment, which is similar to the ESG framework. And under environment, there are about 12 topics identified by the IFRS sustainability standards. And one of such topics are, you have the greenhouse gas emissions, and you have ecological impacts, water management, energy management. Then we move to the second dimension, which is social capital. Social capital is looking at the individuals that are outside the organization. So this will be your customers or the communities where you do your operations. And under social capital, issues around data security, customer privacy are the things that are considered material. Then you move to human capital. When we go to human capital, we're looking at the individuals within the organization. So that would be your employees, and the topics that would affect your employees are things around labor practices, employee health. And we then move to the dimension that pivots from the ESG framework, which is business model and innovation. So that's an innovation under the IFRS sustainability standard. So under business model and innovation, the IFRS sustainability standard is concerned about things around the resilience of your business model. It's looking at product development and lifecycle management, things around supply chain management, and then finally leadership and governance. The leadership and governance aligns to the ESG framework because it's the G. And under leadership and governance, we're looking at topics around business ethics, competitive behavior. And if you add up all of the topics that are under the 5 dimension as at today, you end up with about 32 topics. Now, in the future, as the IFRS Foundation updates, the IFRS sustainability standards, we might have more topics, but as at today, we only have 32 topics. You wonder, so where do I go to find these 32 topics that fall under this 5 dimension of sustainability issues? The IFRS S1 does not leave you looking and guessing. It actually, in paragraph 54, directs you to IFRS sustainability disclosure standards. And as at today, as shown earlier when Faith was speaking, there are currently just 2 IFRS sustainability standards, the IFRS S1, which is providing the foundation, and the IFRS S2, which is helping you make disclosures around climate-related risk and opportunities. So you may wonder, if I want to report on environment that is beyond climate, or I want to report on business model and innovation, where do I go to? Paragraph 55 directs you to the SASB standards. Now, the SASB standards are industry-based, so it means you need to identify the SASB standard for your industry. Each of the SASB industry disclosures actually defines what the industry does, so that you're not in doubt as to whether you've picked the wrong industry. And beyond the SASB standards, the paragraph 55 of IFRS S1 also allows you to refer to other standard setting bodies, as long as their focus does not go against the requirements of the IFRS S1, and then you can also refer to your industry practice. But identifying the topic is only half the journey. Recall that these 32 topics are not material to you as an entity. You need to conduct your own materiality assessment and identify, out of these 32 topics, which are actually material to your business. And from our experience working with clients, we've seen some clients identifying 12 topics, some identifying as high as 25 topics. But the most important thing to note is that the IFRS S1 expects you as the entity to determine what is material. Now, once you've identified what is material, I think for me, this is the most important slide in my presentation. And it is the fact that the IFRS S1 is not asking you what sustainability topic matters. It's actually asking you what information about those topics matter to primary users. And primary users, as defined by the IFRS sustainability standards, are existing and potential investors, existing and potential lenders, existing and potential creditors. I will refer to them as investors going forward, but when I say investors, I'm actually referring to these 3 categories of primary users. Now, if we look at one of the dimension under the universe of sustainability topics, so human capital, take the metals and mining industry. Labor practices is one of their material topics, and under labor practice, a metric that they're supposed to disclose if labor practice is material to your entity is percentage of active workforce employed under collective agreements. Now, if we look at traditional ESG reporting, you would say 82% of your employees are covered by collective bargaining agreements. Go further and say that you maintain positive relationship with your labor unions and you conduct regular engagement meetings, and then you stop there. But for the primary user, the investor, this information is actually inadequate for them to determine whether they should invest with company A or company B. And so the IFRS S1 goes beyond just mentioning the percentage of employees covered under the collective bargaining agreements. It goes further to expects you to tell us how this can affect your cash flows or your access to finance or cost of capital. So an example reporting under the IFRS S1 would be for you to still say 82% of your employees covered by collective bargaining agreements, but you don't stop there. You tell us the percentage of, remember this is for a mining company, how many of your mines do you have this collective agreement for? And in this example, the client has 2 of its major mining sites governed by this collective bargaining agreements. And you need to go further and say what percentage of your annual production would be affected by this collective bargaining agreement, and they've said it's 65% of their annual production. So for me as a primary user or an investor, that's useful information because I would then be interested in finding out if their conflict resolution mechanism is very proactive. Because if it's not proactive, it means that if I invest in this company or I extend a loan to them or I give them goods on credit, and there's a problem with this collective bargaining agreement, it means 65% of their annual turnover would be affected, and what is left may be inadequate to either pay me the returns I expect, and so that will make me move from them to another competitor. So we see clearly the difference between traditional ESG reporting and what the IFRS S1 requires. IFRS S1 is seeking for information that helps an investor make a decision. So let's now look at a simple case study. This is another mining company. ABC Mining Limited believes it has very little sustainability information because it has never published an ESG report before. And then they invite me, Grace, we don't have any sustainability data. We want to do sustainability reporting. Where do we start from? And then I tell them, but you do already have sustainability data within your organization existing. And they say, Grace, where is this information? And I tell them, okay, let's look at your financial statement. Your finance team already captures how much you spend on energy or how much you spend on fuel consumption. Now, the information needed for sustainability is not the amount you spend on energy or the amount you spend on fuel. For energy, for your greenhouse gas emissions calculations, what you would need would be the megawatt hour of electricity consumed. For the petrol or diesel, it will be the volume, not the amount. You need to check within your system, do you have a process to work backwards without currency amount you have to the volume and the kilowatt hour? If the answer is no, then you need to begin to develop a process when you're capturing the currency that also allows you to capture the data that you actually need for sustainability reporting. So one thing I just want to point out with this case study is that oftentimes this challenge isn't that the data does not exist. The challenge is actually connecting the existing data and presenting it in a format that aligns with what the IFRS sustainability standards requires. So when you leave here today, I urge you to go back to your organization and look within the dimension of environment, social capital, human capital, um, business model and innovation, as well as leadership and governance, and identify what data do we already have scattered around finance, HR, operations, procurement, risk and compliance that actually is related to these 5 dimensions of sustainability. And do we have the process to report in the format that aligns with the IFRS sustainability standards? If the answer is no, then you begin to develop the process for that reporting. So what do I want you to leave here with today? First and foremost, sustainability must be owned by the board. Otherwise, you end up with greenwashing where you're saying something that is not integrated within your processes. So there must be board commitment for the adoption of the IFRS sustainability standards. Then you identify what your material sustainability risk and opportunities are. Then map the existing organizational data to the identified sustainability-related risk and opportunities. Build a cross-functional team because, as we saw earlier, the data resides in different departments within the organization, and then improve gradually rather than waiting for perfection. Organizations that succeed, in my experience, with IFRS sustainability reporting are not necessarily those that have the most sustainability experts. They are those that break down organizational silos and connect sustainability with financial reporting, with financial decision making. So I just want to conclude by saying that you will not become a sustainability expert overnight. It's about the organization understanding how sustainability could impact your cash flows, your access to finance, or your cost of capital. And we're looking at it from the lens of risk. So that will be negative impact, and opportunities, that will be positive impact. So always bear in mind that the IFRS sustainability standards looks beyond just one aspect. It's concerned about the risk, what could go wrong. And how are you mitigating those things that can go wrong? What can go right, the opportunities, and how are you leveraging on those opportunities and ensuring that is integrated into your operations? I'll stop now and look forward to your questions, which we'll take at the end of the session. Faith, I'll yield back to you now. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Grace. That was an excellent foundation to starting our webinar. You really helped us to simplify the standards and see how best we can start implementing IFRS S1. Thank you so much. Now, moving forward, we have a poll that's going to come up on your screens. Please take a moment to just respond to it. Which area does your organization need to strengthen most to improve sustainability reporting? We have those responses there. Is it data collection and quality? Is it documentation and audit trails? Is it cross-functional collaboration? Is it governance and board oversight? What is it? Please let us know. Thank you to everyone who's responding. To those who haven't responded, please just take a minute to respond. Thank you. Okay, we are ending the poll now. Thank you all for your responses. It's nice to see people taking part. Most people are mentioning that data collection and quality, and it is our hope that by the end of this webinar, you'll be able to go back to organizations and collect sustainability information. Now we move forward to our next presenter, Mr. Chris Munodawafa from Zimbabwe. He is going to share on Zimbabwe's sustainability roadmap. Mr. Munodawafa is the Assistant Technical Manager and IFRS Taxation at the Institute of Chartered Accountants, Zimbabwe. And he's bringing extensive experience in IFRS sustainability reporting, governance, and taxation. So during this session, he is going to share insights into Zimbabwe's sustainability reporting roadmap. So, Mr. Munodawafa, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Faith. For that, my name is Chris Mnodafa. I'm going to deal with the Zimbabwean context, the PAAB roadmap, what Zimbabwe is doing currently at the moment. So the roadmap in Zimbabwe, it moves our Zimbabwe conversation from should we just report to how do we prepare and by when. So the first reporting deadline may look distant, but the work that determines whether an organization succeeds must start now. So we've got the voluntary preparation, which will be our first issue. Then we've got the mandatory reporting. Then there is the issue to do with the external assurance within our roadmap. So we have got 4 categories within our roadmaps, which I shall cover in detail. Faith, confirm, I think I was having just a slide. Can you share the slides from your side so that I'll... Hi, Faith. All right, let me proceed. So Faith, are you able to share from your side? Thank you. I think I can see now. So we are dealing with how Zimbabwe has reached this point. So from the Zimbabwean perspective now, uh, our roadmap has got three main issues. So the first one, it will be voluntary preparation, whereby every single category, without exception, shall begin preparing their governance structures, their data systems, and they have to perform their gap assessment. Then the second part, it will be the mandatory reporting. This becomes compulsory starting with the category 1 entities, which will be in 2028. Then thirdly, there is the issue to do with external assurance, where we shall comply with the ISSA 5000, which is going to be which will be effective from 31 December 2026. That's when our reporting kicks in Zimbabwe. So the most important thing here, so the first reporting deadline may look distant at the moment. 2028 might feel far away, but the work that determines whether your organization succeeds or struggle must start now. So in 2026 preparation, deadline are two different clocks, and the preparation clock is already running. So if we go, you can take me to the next slides. Thank you. So how Zimbabwe reached this point? So in 2019, that's when sustainability reporting already in Zimbabwe. So ZSE and VFX, all listed entities, they started reporting using the GRI. Then on 1 January 2024, that's when your IFRS S1 and S2, I think Grace did a good job on that. We implemented beginning on that 1 January 2024. Then on 12 February 2025, that's when PAAB, our ZSE and SEZ issued a joint statement whereby an interim national position on sustainability reporting. Then on 11 April 2026, in VicForce, on the ZAC conference, that's when the PAA roadmap was issued, which now superseded the joint statement which was made before. So what it means now in Zimbabwe, the roadmap is now in place, and everyone should now comply with that particular roadmap, though it's effective starting this year. So let's go to the various categories which were set within that roadmap. So the very first thing every organization needs to do is work out which category it falls into. And this isn't optional homework. It's the decision which determines your entire timeline. So your PAB roadmap places every organization into one of the four categories based on three factors. So there are three important factors when you are coming up with those categories. The first one is your public interest status. What's your organization actual level of experience? Is your entity a public interest entity? If it's a pie, according to the definition, remember the definition from our CPC is defined by PAB. So within this category, we have mainly our listed companies, our banks, our state-owned enterprises, and most high impact entities. They all qualify under this category. Then next thing which was considered, it was the implementation capacity. What's the organization's actual level of experience in capacity with ESG type disclosure? So high capacity generally points to category 1 or 2, then low capacity, they later fell into category 3. Then the third thing which was considered was the climate and your environmental exposure. So high exposure points lead to category 1, others fall into categories 2 and 3. And I want to stress this next. What's important, the category decision should be documented by your management and should be reviewed by your board. So it is not something to be left for your auditors to decide at year end. So if you leave that date, you have already also lost the preparation time that was supposed to protect you. Then another key thing, so within the category 1, which are the leading adopters. So the category 1, like what I've said, it covers your public interest entities with high implementation capacity and high climate exposure. So most of your listed entities on the ZSE or VFEX, banking institutions, your building societies, state-owned enterprises, as long they are applying IFRS, they are in that category. And mostly high environmental impact entities, those requiring EIA certificates, they fall in that category. Then if you go to category 2, that's moderate capacity PIEs, public interest entities. If you go to category 2, it's for public interest entities, but with moderate implementation capacity. So it talks about your unlisted insurance and reinsurance companies, life and funeral assurers, deposit-taking microfinance institutions, your pension funds, and your other public interest entities, as long they don't fit categories 1, 3, or 4. So an unlisted pension fund is a good example. So public interest status, but with more preparation time than category 1. Then we go to our category 3. Our category 3 deals with mainly entities with low capacity to comply. So we are talking about our non-deposit microfinance institutions, your micro-insurance entities, and also entities without public interest status that don't fall under category 1 and what? And your 2. So a small private trading company is applying IFRS, but it doesn't have public interest status, will generally land here because it's on a simplified. So we are taking, it has got a low implementation capacity. Then we've got our category 4, is entirely separate from, or mostly now we are dealing with all other public sector entities, which are reporting under IPSAS, not IFRS. So they are applying the IPSAS sustainability reporting standards. So remember, with those IPSAS, they are going to be implemented at a later date. So a separate PAB roadmap will likely be issued specifically for these entities. So a ministry or a local authority applying IPSAS, they sit in category 4 and should be watching for that separate public sector roadmap. So category 4 is not covered by the category 1, 2, and 3. So then what are the most important dates, the dates that matter? We have got to remember the mandatory reporting. So category 1, which is our the PIA high interest groups, they begin voluntary preparation in 2026. Then they have to move to mandatory reporting in 2028. Then they go to limited assurance following in 2030. So these are our lead adopters. They have a short runway, unlike category 2, 3, and 4. Then for category 2, yes, voluntary preparation again, which is going to run from 2026 to 2027. Then there is the mandatory reporting from 2030 with the assurance timing still to be announced. So more time, but instruction is the same. So they have to still start now is like other entities in category 1. Then we've got category 3, which is low capacity. The voluntary preparation from 2027 to 2028. Then mandatory reporting from 2032. Then our category 4, which is mostly IPSAS entities, it is due to be announced across board pending that separate roadmap. So what are the key lessons? Every category has got a different deadline, but every single category has a work to do right now in 2026. So there is no category where we will deal with this later. So it's the safest way now is every organization should start now. So the question is, what organizations should do in 26 currently? What should we do in 26? The entities before, and mostly entities, others in Zimbabwe, they already started doing it. If you go to banks, mostly listed entities, though they were applying GRI, but they've already started doing that. So what should organizations do in 2026? So what should we be doing this year? So I will give you about 6 important actions. Number 1, establish accountability. So the board needs to decide which committee on sustainability, and management needs to name an executive owner who is going to be supported by cross-functional team, the finance, your risk, your operations, be it your internal audit, your procurement, HR, and IT. The next important thing, you should run a gap assessment. You should compare your current reporting against the IFRS S1 and S2 pillars, the 4 pillars: your governance, your strategy, your risk management, your metrics and targets. Then next thing, map your data. Before you even think about designing a report, ask what information is needed. Where does it come from? Who owns it? How often it is captured? And what evidence support it? Then another key thing, identify your material risk. So you need to focus on the risk and opportunities that could genuinely affect your cash flows, your access to finance, or cost of capital, and make it sector specific. So for mining, things like water, tailings, banks, etc., they are mostly the basic thing you should focus on. Another important thing, you need to run a pilot report. So do this before your mandatory year. It is far cheaper to find missing data and weak controls now in 26 than to discover them during an actual assurance engagement. Another important thing, involve internal audit early. So internal audit can review your design of your data controls while preserving their independence. So you just have to agree on the scope, the criteria, and the evidence upfront. Then another key thing, you should now prepare for assurance. So when we are preparing for assurance, we need evidence, not narrative. So no assurance, management or internal auditor tested. So as you go through this, make sure you prepare well in advance. You don't have to wait for the mandatory time. As an entity, what should we do? Do we know our risk, our ESG risk? Are we implementing our sustainability as an entity? So let's first make sure we have mapped our organization. In which category do we fall in? Let's make plans. What are we doing to make sure by the time it becomes mandatory, everyone will be ready within the organization. Every member understand what sustainability is and what it entails. What does the report require from us? The roadmap. So sustainability reporting is not primarily a report writing project. It is a governance, it's a strategy, it's a risk, it's a data and assurance project. So you need to know your category, know your debts, and start building the evidence now. Thank you. Hi, Faith. Over to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Munodawafa. That was an excellent presentation from you, and thank you for helping us to understand the roadmap and to know which which categories our companies relate to. Before we go to the next speaker, we would like to have another poll coming up on your screens right now. What is the biggest takeaway from the Zimbabwe's PAB roadmap? Please just take a moment to respond to the poll. Thank you. Are the organization supposed to wait until reporting becomes mandatory? Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Please keep your responses coming. Thank you for everyone who's responding. As you respond, we would like to encourage you to submit your questions in the chat box. We will collect and answer as many as we can during the Q&A session. Okay, thank you. We will end the poll now. Looks like most people are relating to knowing the category, knowing the dates, and starting preparing now. Thank you so much for responding. Now on to our next speaker, Mrs. Tinuade Awe. She is the Chief Executive Officer of TMSN Limited in Nigeria. She is a governance and sustainability reporting expert and serves on the supervisory board of the Global Reporting Initiative. And today she's going to discuss the importance role of boards, executives, and management teams as they prepare organizations for IFRS S1. Over to you, Tinu.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here from Nigeria. So I will go straight into the presentation because I know I have limited time. So I'm going to be talking about primarily about governance, notwithstanding what you see on the screen, obviously, because I had to arrange my screen into my presentation into certain buckets. You will see something on the screen, but I want you to fix your head into a governance space. And when we talk about a governance space, what are we really talking about? We're basically saying that Grace and my other colleague have spoken about IFRS sustainability standards, and they've made it clear that you have to get data and then you have to report on that data, right? Those are some of the takeaways. Now, what governance is about is ensuring that there is a structure within the organization for that data to come out in a way that it actually conveys what needs to be conveyed according to the IFRS standards, in a way that the reputation of the company is preserved because the disclosures are accurate, because the disclosures cannot be subject to claims around greenwashing, for example. So governance is how you ensure that you have credible, coherent, consistent, and decision-useful disclosures in your sustainability report. That it is not just a report where what you're seeing is loads of pictures and CSR. It's actually an IFRS S1, S2 compliant report that is credible. So whenever we talk about governance, we think about boards, we think about executives, we think about management. Why is governance so critical here? And what is it that is actually required? Why is it that everyone is saying, you need to be appropriately well governed when you're in this space? There are three major reasons. First of all, remember that we're talking about IFRS sustainability standards, which deal with disclosures on the level of financial impact materiality. We're talking about risks and opportunities. And anytime you're talking about financial impact materiality lens, you're actually thinking about the users of financial statements, general purpose financial statements, those who are interested in the company because they have a financial, they have something financial to lose. They are the investors, they are the lenders, they are the, otherwise capital providers to the company. So they are interested and they want to make sure that there is a process of governance that gets this information out for reliability. Then, of course, we just finished talking about the regulatory expectations in Zimbabwe, but I can tell you that those regulatory expectations are everywhere where IFRS S1 and S2, and indeed other sustainability reporting standards are being spoken about There are the regulatory expectations. And obviously, anytime a regulator is involved in something, you do want to be careful that whatever it is has gone through appropriate governance. Another thing is comparability. We're not doing this just for the fun of putting out a report. You're talking to folks who have a financial relationship with the company. They're interested in your cash flow. They're interested in your financial position. They're interested in what it costs you to be able to access finance. And therefore, they're also looking not only at your company, they're looking at others. They're looking at comparability. Somebody is sitting in New York and thinking, do I invest in a coal mine in Zimbabwe, or do I invest in a coal mine in Germany? And for them to be able to do that, that comparability is important. And so the governance through which the disclosures come out is extremely important. Governance is so important that it's actually one of the core pillars. And I think we've spoken a little bit about what those core pillars are. Now, what do you do about governance? You have to build it appropriately. You can't just say, oh, I will have a board. The board is at the top. We talk about a fish rotting at its head. So, of course, you want to make sure that the board has taken a resolution about this, is taking it seriously, probably either has designated a specific committee to deal with sustainability, and that committee is looking at, has the appropriate people in it. Appropriate when I say not just sustainability experts, but folks who understand sustainability, are not afraid of all the acronyms in sustainability, and also are able to relate from sustainability to all the interrelationships that Grace spoke about, and to the various, what may now be silos of data within the company. They can understand it. And you need to train them, and you need to be sure that they actually understand what they're talking about. It's not over their heads. In order to be able to give an appropriate strategy, in order to be able to do the appropriate risk analysis, and in order to be able to ensure that appropriate targets and metrics set. You also need a named executive owner, and I cannot say this too many times. In my language, we talk about how somebody thinks that the chicken in the village square or the goat in the village square is being fed, because obviously if it's in the village square, it must have an owner. But you know your goat or your chicken and you're feeding it. The one that nobody knows, everybody just thinks somebody else is feeding it. That's how sustainability can be if you don't have an executive owner. Everybody thinks, oh, somebody is dealing with sustainability, somebody is dealing with it. No, name somebody, make their compensation dependent on it because they have KPIs on it, link their bonuses to it, and then surround them with a structure that ensures that within the other operational units of the company, wherever sustainability risks and opportunities could be created, there is an interrelationship that relates right into this person that has this support as well, and that it is going straight into the board. Some of the places you need to have that support for this person is obviously within finance, within risk, within legal, and general operations. You know your company best, but you have to have a structure where there's this executive, there are other executives that all have an interest in this. Sometimes some people have a management sustainability committee, and that management sustainability committee runs into the board sustainability committee. And then, of course, you also need formal policies and procedures. What doesn't get written doesn't get measured. And so your sustainability policy, your risk framework that has sustainability embedded in it, as my colleague who just finished was saying, talking about using internal audit to even audit what you are doing. You need to have proper governance. If you're going to use internal audits, that means that at the beginning of the year, in your internal audit plan for the year, you need to have it. That is governance. Just doesn't happen. It is governance by design. and you bring the rigor into it in everything that you're doing. You need to have clear responsibility for data and controls. Grace made an excellent illustration of us having sustainability data and not knowing that we have it. And because we don't know that we have it, what do? We don't measure it. We don't care. We don't pay attention to it. We're paying attention to what we think is there. We're not paying attention to the data below. What a proper governance structure puts in place is you then start having, what are the controls over this data? What are the assurances over this data? Who is collecting the data within everything that they're doing? If you have a mine, for example, and you are looking at the condition of the workers in the mine, are there sustainability issues from the S that you need to be collecting in order to be able to make your reports? If you have folks in your company are flying, the executives are flying business class, are there CO2 emissions that need to be tracked in the emissions for those trips that they're making? Clear responsibilities. And then, as we've said before, the adoption decision must be documented. And as we've talked about doing a gap analysis, where are you now and what governance measures do you have to put in place in order to get to where you are going? So it's a journey, and it is governance that will help you to go through there. Obviously, as with every other thing, there's a connection between management and the board in all of this. So you have the individual who is the sustainability, the executive in charge of sustainability. In some places, it may be your chief risk officer. In some places, it's your chief financial officer. In some places, sustainability is such a critical issue that you decide that you are going to have a chief sustainability officer reporting to the CEO, and then that management committee that is a sustainability committee as well. And then obviously you have the folks below who are creating the risks and are being made aware that they are creating sustainability data as well that needs to tie up into the entire structure. So the board will set the tone at the top. The management must translate it. And each of these, the board committee, the management committee, the individuals, including this executive, very critical. In a company that we were consulting for, the head of the sustainability committee was a woman who was very, very knowledgeable and very interested in sustainability. The folks at the sustainability committee on the management level also very knowledgeable, very interested. The synergy was fantastic, just back and forth, iron sharpening iron. Then your approach, the board comes periodically, but the management is there all the time. And so your reporting process between the management and the board has to be set. What does the board want to know? The board needs to tell management what it wants to see. Management too, in seeing things, needs to say to the board, we need your imprimatur on this. What it means is that you need to have a structure around that reporting, a structure, a delegation of authority that relates to sustainability decisions as well. How often are you going to meet at the management level? How often are you going to report to the board? How often are they going to give you decisions? What are the escalation steps between the board and, between the management and the board? And the board has to be ready to challenge what management brings. In order to be ready, remember I talked about how you need to be knowledgeable. Knowledge doesn't come from the air. It means that we need to be ready to train our board members. Sometimes management doesn't want, it says, oh, the board is intruding on these issues. This is an area where the board and management have to work properly together. And that means education and awareness, and step by step to ensure that you actually create a well-governed structure that will spit out a sustainability report that is actually your sustainability story. This is especially true when assurance comes. You don't want to be that company that you get a negative assurance from opinion from your assurance provider because you've not taken the steps that are appropriate. You've not trained people properly. You've not properly demarcated authorities, and so on and so forth. One of the things that happens is not about a weakness in ambition. It's about those connecting tissues, closing the gaps between the board oversight and the teams actually doing the work. And you close it through policy, you close it through procedure, you close it through reporting, you close it through dashboards, you close it through talking to one another, and then follow-up action plans that help you in documenting. I'm about to finish. What are the lessons that we've learned? You cannot say it too often. I'm saying it again. Start early. Start early. Phased adoption is spreading learning. So you've seen you have your category 1 that are supposed to go by 2028. Look at their reports. Look at what they're saying, especially if they're in the same, if you are in a category 2, and ensure that you are learning from what they are saying, because they will set the tone that the market will take. So you don't want to come in at a lower level. Engage your board early. If you are here, you're from management, this is an area that is within your remit. You do need to write that report to the board. Hey, this is the government has this roadmap. We went for this meeting. These are some of the things I learned, and we very quickly have to get together a committee, both at management level and at board level. As I said, you can use committees you already have in both places. Just make sure that you add to their remits so that they have authority for what they're doing. KPIs need to be, refined to increase this. And then look at your first cycle as a transitional cycle. IFRS actually allows you to take certain reliefs. Take those reliefs. Don't be a superhero. Don't overextend yourself. Don't overwhelm yourself. Everybody in the world is starting at these IFRS standards at the same time. Well, more or less the same time. Remember, they just became effective in 2024. And so don't be a superhero unless you actually have the means to be one. And I will stop at this point. Thank you very much. Hello, can you hear me?
Hello,
Hello?
Tinu.
Yes.
Yes, thank you so much for your presentation. We really enjoyed it. Definitely, governance is the heart of a successful sustainability report. And I really liked how you illustrated using the chicken village or the goat. People always assume that it's being fed. So we definitely don't want our sustainability related issues to be like a chicken village where everyone thinks it's being looked after, yet there is no one. So it comes from the board to take responsibility of sustainability issues. So thank you so much once again, Tinuade. We would like to have another poll before we go on to our next presenter. There's a poll on your screens right now. Please just take a moment to respond to it. According to IFRS S1, governance is primarily about what? Please go ahead and pick a response that you feel fits better for that question. Okay, thank you for everyone responding. We still have some time to respond to the poll. Please, those who haven't responded, please go ahead and respond. Okay, many people are saying establishing oversight, accountability, and decision making for sustainability related risks and opportunities. Lovely. Okay. We encourage you to submit your questions in the chat box, and we are going to respond to them at the end of the presentations. Okay, so moving on to our next presenter, Chennai Banda. She is our final speaker today. She is a sustainability and SHE practitioner and an ISO and ESG internal auditor. and she has extensive experience in mining industry as a current role as the She Consultant at Mimosa Mine in the Midlands province of Zimbabwe. So today she's going to take us through practical insights into how operational functions. Now we know what governance and other departments needs to do. She's going to take us through on how operational teams and functions can identify sustainability issues and foster reporting. Chennai, over to you.
Thank you, Faith. Good afternoon, colleagues and esteemed peers. My name is Chennai Elizabeth Banda. As the final presenter, I'm not going to lie, I am feeling a lot of pressure following so many insightful speakers, but I hope I'll be able to build on the wisdom shared today and close with practical perception. So, the father of modern management, Peter Drucker, famously said, "What gets measured gets managed." These are words which are going to guide or be the theme of my presentation today. My topic, as Faith has already alluded, is from operations to disclosure, lessons from the mining industry. My task today is both simple and difficult at the same time. I am bringing the boardroom. I'm taking all of us away from the boardroom to the operational field. So my task today is to explain how data from daily mining activities becomes credible sustainability information for investors and stakeholders. So you may be wondering, why are we taking lessons from mining? Well, it's simple. Mining is a brownfield industry. When we talk of mining as a brownfield industry, we are talking about how mining has numerous inputs, high-risk operations, and substantial environmental and social footprint. It has intense stakeholder scrutiny, and if we look at it this way, if a mining sector can turn its operational data into reliable investor-grade disclosures, it certainly can provide a useful blueprint for other industries to seek and for other industries who are seeking to strengthen their sustainability reporting. So mining, because of the nature of its operations, is therefore a good starting point for all industries and a blueprint for all industries. With that context being established, we are going to discuss the sustainability data journey which under IFRS S1. When we talk of IFRS S1 in the operational sector, we are basically talking about the vital bridge which links how we protect our people and our planet to how we preserve long-term profitability. We'll then move on to the risk and opportunities which arise from sustainability. So on my next slide, I'm going to talk about the key issues which come with risk and opportunities. Maybe we can move on to the next slide. So when we talk of risk and opportunities, we are not talking about whether sustainability risk exists, but or whether they are not there. We know for a fact risk exists when we talk of sustainability. What's important is to note that, are the risks adequately identified? Are they managed? Are they measured? And are they clearly disclosed? In mining, there are numerous risks. They can include water scarcity, regulatory changes, tailings failures, safety incidents, energy price changes, etc. When we adequately manage this risk, or when we take the proactive approach to manage this risk, we can then create significant opportunities. I'm going to share two illustrations of two mines, both in Africa. The first mine which I'm going to talk about, it's an example of how failure to disclose sustainability information or sustainability data can have detrimental effects. And then the second case study, I will talk of the successes of adequate disclosure in sustainability reporting. So the first case study, it's of a mine in South Africa. This is of a tailings dam which collapsed in the Jaegers Fountain mine, which is in South Africa. This disaster demonstrated the consequences of inadequate risk monitoring and disclosure. The result or the aftermath of the tailings dam collapse was approximately 6 million cubic meters of tailings were released, which caused loss of life, destruction of more than 150 homes and infrastructure, and significant contamination of land and water resources. Devastating indeed. The remediation costs were reported to be more than 500 million rands. In US dollars, that's about 30 million US dollars. Imagine a scenario whereby an investor wants to invest in such a mine. Which investor would want to gamble or to take a chance with a mine which already has such a reputation? Till this day, this incident happened or occurred about 3 years ago, but till this day, this mine has failed to resuscitate. Food for thought. This is what happens when we fail to adequately disclose sustainability-related issues. The subsequent reports indicated that the concerns regarding the condition and structural integrity of the tailings facility had been raised by community members prior to this failure. However, the organization failed to adequately monitor this risk or to adequately address this risk by failing to fully disclose their sustainability risk, and these concerns were not sufficiently disclosed. And it also failed to then prompt interventions from various bodies which could have assisted the mine. So the lesson is clear: when risks are not effectively disclosed, they can escalate into major crisis. The second case study, this one is on a positive note. Kibali Gold Mine in the Democratic Republic of Congo. They identified that their operations need high energy in order for them to run. Hence, they decided to come up with the proactive initiative to reduce their environmental footprint by investing in renewable energy sources. So they then set up a 16 megawatt solar plant with a storage battery, and it's also aided by hydropower. The aftermath of these initiatives are that 50% of their plant is now fully run by renewable resources, and they've conserved 500 liters of water according to their last annual report. This shows that their reduced energy and water consumption has also significantly lowered their production costs, and it has strengthened Kibali's global reputation as a responsible and resilient mining operation. Key lesson is transparent disclosure of risks, mitigatory initiatives, and measurable outcomes gives stakeholders the confidence in a company's resilience and long-term value creation. It's a no-brainer. Any investor would rather invest in Kibali as opposed to invest in Jaegers Fountain Mine. We'll move on to the next slide, and we're going to talk about how sustainability information is generated. So I like to call this the heart of sustainability. It's simple. You cannot disclose what you do not measure, and you cannot measure what you do not capture, and you cannot capture what you do not know. Therefore, this journey follows a simple chain of building an audit-ready trust. This is from the field to the boardroom. So essentially, we need to identify all our relevant sustainability data sources, provide appropriate instrumentation, monitoring systems, and staff training to ensure data is collected consistently, accurately, and reliably. And then we need to capture the data. We need to process that data, synthesize that data, so that the data can generate meaningful insight, give us a value, and also for adequate trend analysis. And finally, the last step is disclosure. That's the destination. This is when we communicate the results transparently through sustainability reports and regulatory disclosures. Sustainability risk and opportunities can only be effectively managed through high quality data and robust documentation. These are the 6 pillars of quality sustainability reporting: accuracy, balance, verifiability, indication of estimations used, complete data for all key entities, and use of internationally agreed standards or metrics or units. However, why is it important to have quality data? When we talk of quality data, we are talking about the physical ground truth. So my next slide, we're going to discuss quality data and documentation. When we talk of documentation, we're talking about the proof or the paper trail. So why are these two important? Having quality data mitigates litigation and compliance risks by preventing greenwashing claims, thus protecting the organization from costly legal liabilities. It also optimizes operational performance as precise metrics on water, energy, and safety empowers managers to have a proper target of their inefficiencies and how to cut costs and also better protect their teams. Documentation is essentially making sure that all of our processes, or making sure that the organization is audit ready, because auditors are not just going to take our word for it. Auditors need to have the blueprint. They need to see the digital trail to prove that our numbers are authentic. And also it will allow for external analysts to easily replicate and verify our results. Also, it will assist with preserving institutional memory for informed decision-making, as historical records enable accurate long-term trend analysis. Finally, we must remember this. When we talk of sustainability cannot exist in silos. So I have a lovely picture on my next slide, which shows how sustainability is interlinked with all operations. So in a mining environment, all departments have to be part and parcel, or they have to submit their data if we're going to have adequate or a complete sustainability report. I'll give an example of just a few departments which are common to most of us in the operational sector. We'll always have the SHE department, and the SHE department is usually known to be the one which is the custodian of sustainability. I'm not going to go deep into that argument, whether it's true or not. However, I'm just going to explain how every department plays a role in having a complete sustainability report. The SHE department will give data on incident frequency rates. It will give data on safety and environment, whilst the HR department will give data on the workforce and training matrix. The processing plant will give data on production. The engineering will track energy consumption and asset performance, whilst ICT will ensure data integrity and support the system. And supply chain will provide supplier and procurement information. So these are just some of the departments which are common in most mining industries. So together, all these departments play a vital role in coming up with a complete sustainable report. So if we're going to have an accurate budget, or if we're going to have full disclosure and a transparent sustainability report, we need to have the data, or we need to measure operations from every department. Every department has to submit their input. Finally, I started off my presentation talking about what gets measured gets managed. Reliable sustainability disclosure starts long before the report is written. It starts at the operational level. So it begins in the fields. This is in the plants and in the plant and with the everyday operations. So from operations to disclosure, every measurement matters, because what gets measured gets managed, and what gets managed gets improved, and what gets improved creates a sustainable value. So I've taken you from the boardroom and brought you to the operational level. Thank you so much for this presentation, and back to you, Faith.
Thank you so much, Chennai. That was a nice presentation from you. You really demonstrated how sustainability reporting isn't just a finance exercise, but it requires collaboration across all departments in the organization. Please, let's show our speakers some love as we conclude the presentations and as we move to the question and answer session. Okay, I would like to take this moment to thank all our speakers for their lovely presentations. We have one poll that is going to appear on your screens just now. Please take a moment to respond to it. Which area does your organization need to strengthen the most to improve sustainability reporting? Okay. Thank you to everyone who's responding. Thank you. Okay, now we move on to our question and answer session. We will start with, I saw a question from Elijah George. Many organizations already collect sustainability related data, but struggle to connect it to financial decision making. What practical changes can finance, risks, operations, and sustainability teams make to begin speaking the same language under IFRS S1? Grace, are you able to take this one?
Okay, yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Elijah, for that question. And yeah, you're right. There is quite a number of sustainability related data within organization, but the challenge is actually linking it to your financial prospects. So let's take, for instance, a manufacturing company that identifies that water is a major component of its production, and then it's in a location where it's experiencing water scarcity. That organization already realizes that water availability is a risk to it. So what that organization can do is identify within its operation the fact that water is becoming scarce. Will there be some sort of regulation by the government that requires it to pay maybe higher for water? Or is it possible that it now needs to possibly develop processes or a system where it's recycling water? And because it now needs to buy an equipment that enables it to recycle water, it should be able to forecast and estimate by how much will its capital expenditure increase, because it's trying to address this water scarcity risk that is an environmental issue. And so the starting point really is identifying what your material sustainability risks are. Once you've identified what the risk is, for instance, in this case, water scarcity, you then need to get data from the operational team on how much volume of water do you use. once you have an idea of the volume of water you currently use, and you then project based on the fact that the environment where you're operating is experiencing water scarcity, what volume of water would be available for you in the future. And because of that decline in the volume of water that would affect your production, you then estimate, what are my options? Do I move location? What will be the cost of relocation? Or do I stay where I am, get an equipment that enables me to recycle water so I don't need to keep going to get fresh water? And then, so what's the cost of getting that recycling equipment that enables me reduce my dependence on fresh water? So by the time you map all of these processes, you'll be able to see how it would affect your financial performance, because if you're having to buy an equipment, obviously your capital expenditure is going to go up, so it's going to affect your cash flows. Your cash flows are reducing, but the fact that you bought that equipment means you're able to continue to produce, so your revenues would compensate for whatever money went out for the capital expenditure. So that's how you try and link it. You start from the risk, identify what the risk is. How do you mitigate the risk? Does it involve you spending money? And because of the money you spent, does it help you improve your revenue? So that's how you link it. Thank you so much, Elijah, for that question.
Thank you, Grace, for answering. Elijah, will come back to your question. We'll let others respond to other attendees' questions. We have a question on our YouTube. Which do we need to hire ESG specialist, or can our existing team manage the process? Chennai, are you able to take that one?
Thank you, Faith. Yes. Well, we don't necessarily need to hire ESG specialists. As most organizations, what they can begin with is to have their existing teams collect the existing ESG data, because the data is already existing from our day-to-day operations. So finance can focus on their specific issues, whilst HR share risk, procurement, and legal also play their part in the required information. However, though, I will stress the point that it's very beneficial to appoint or hire an ESG or a sustainability lead. This person will then coordinate the cross-functional collaboration, because it's a collaboration of various departments. So there's need for someone to then collaborate and also interpret the reporting standards, such as the IFRS S1, and also ensure data quality, consistency, and compliance, and also just time your submission of data, and come up with maybe a system which will then be the central system which everyone can follow when they can follow when they're submitting their ground data. So the goal is not to create a separate ESG department, but it's to integrate all departments into the existing business functions with strong coordination. I hope this answers the question. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Chennai. We have a question from Familayo. I hope I'm pronouncing that well. Is that 90-day challenge Chris talked about something that could work for any company getting started, not just in Zimbabwe? Yes, definitely. Any company can adopt that 90-day challenge. Maybe let me bring back the slide. If you didn't get a chance, you can take a screenshot. Okay, there you go. If you can just quickly take a screenshot. It's just a guidance. It's not prescriptive, but it's just a guidance to help you get started. Because what we are seeing in the reports is that most African companies are probably reporting or starting to report on sustainability related issues, but they lack the actual implementation strategy. So this 90-day plan can assist you to get your company going in this journey. Okay, we're going back to Elijah George. Grace, please get ready for this question. For multinational organizations operating across several African countries, how should they manage different national implementation timelines while maintaining consistency in reporting?
Okay, so that's a very interesting question, Elijah. And I think the first thing is the IFRS S1 actually requires you to have the same reporting boundary as your financial statements. So what it means is that if the group, the holding company, is reporting consolidated information, it means that in the country of the parents, it must report consolidated information. But then we must take into cognizance the fact that the subsidiaries in countries with later timelines may not be at the same level as the parents. That means we're assuming that the parent has the more stringent timeline, maybe to report in 2026, while the subsidiaries are in country that have 2030 mandatory reporting or 2050 mandatory reporting, for instance. So even if the subsidiaries have later reporting timelines, they will still need to provide some data for the consolidated reports. So it means the subsidiaries must align with the reporting requirements of their parent. So for instance, we have a client which is based in Nigeria with subsidiaries in Cote d'Ivoire. Cote d'Ivoire does not yet currently have a requirement for IFRS sustainability reporting or any form of sustainability reporting. But because their parent in Nigeria has a reporting requirement using the IFRS sustainability standard, the subsidiary in Cote d'Ivoire had to start generating some form of data to feed into the reporting of the parents. So to answer your question, where there are different reporting timelines, we now need to take cognizance of the reporting timeline of the ultimate parent, because the ultimate parent is the one that must consolidate all of the subsidiaries. And because the ultimate parent must consolidate the information of the subsidiary countries will need to start working with the reporting deadline of their parent company. So they would definitely be ahead of their country and ensure that the parent company is able to report in accordance with the requirements of the IFRS S1. Elijah, just to confirm that your question has adequately been answered, please, with a thumbs up. I'm not sure I saw the thumbs up. Elijah, are you still with us? Okay. Faith, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much, Grace, for that response. We still have questions on YouTube channel. We will respond to those directly to you. If you can just drop your email address so that we can respond direct to you. We are running out of time, but we would like to thank you. We would like to thank our speakers. We would like to thank Grace, Mr. Munudawafa, Tinuade, and Chennai for taking the time out of their busy schedules to join us today and share their perspectives and knowledge around ISSB disclosure standards. I would like also to thank each one of you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us today. This is only the beginning of our Sustainability Readiness in Africa webinar series, and we hope that you will continue to join us as we explore additional topics together. We look forward to seeing you at the next session. But before you go, we have one last poll. We want to see if we are ready for action. We have one last poll that will appear on your screens after today's webinar. What is the first action you plan to take in implementing IFRS S1? Please go ahead and respond to the question. Would like to hear what you are going to do after this presentation. Okay. Someone is saying preparing the sustainability report at year end. Okay, please go ahead and respond to the questions. Okay, thank you so much for everyone. It is 4:30 CAT time, and this marks the end of our webinar. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to hosting you again in our next webinar. Thank you. Bye.